Broadcasting from down on the bayou, it's the Average Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, powered by Lake Area Media, LLC. And now your hosts, David Boston and Patrick Fry.
And welcome to episode number 123 of the AMP Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Fry. David Boston, he's feeling a little under the weather today, so I told him to just take it easy and relax a little bit. I will handle this one solo today, so thanks everybody for listening, whether you're listening live or whether you're listening back on your favorite podcast platform. This is episode number 123 of the AMP Wrestling Podcast, and if you could do us a little bit of a favor, you can head on over to Amazon. Of course, we know a lot of folks out there do a lot of shopping on Amazon, and if you could just type in tinyurl.com/AmazonAmp. Marcus Talbert in the chat, as always. What's up, Marcus? You're always our number one loyal listener, so thanks for coming and hanging out with us, Marcus. I'm rolling solo today, Marcus, so anything you want to chat about today, throw it in the chat, man. We'll have some good old fun wrestling talk here today. But for everyone out there, if you want to help us out a little bit, I guess donate a little bit to the podcast, if you will. tinyurl.com/AmazonAmp, AMP. Just type that into your URL, whether it's on your mobile device or whether you're on a computer, and save it as your Amazon bookmark. Now, what that's going to do is whenever you use that particular link to go to Amazon, anything you buy, Amazon's going to throw us a little bit of commission, if you will. It's not going to cost you anything extra. It's just going to help you boys out a little bit. They're going to throw us a little extra change for, you using our link. That's basically how it works. So tinyurl.com/AmazonAmp. If you're watching the live stream, you can see the URL up there as well. So enter that into your browser. Save it as a bookmark. You could just save it as Amazon, and it's as if you were just regularly going to Amazon. And then whatever you buy, as long as you are using that link to go to Amazon, whatever you buy thereafter, we get a little bit of the proceeds, and every little bit helps to help us make this podcast just a little bit better, because obviously, as far as I'm concerned, we could always use some improvement. So that's tinyurl.com/AmazonAmp. Well, we're going to go ahead and get right into it now, since, like I said, I'm the only one in today. David, like I said, feeling a little bit under the weather, so hopefully he will be feeling good enough to join us back next week. We got Marcus in the chat, though. Marcus always is appreciate you coming in. Marcus says, well, there is a lot going on right now. The WWE opens the Forbidden Door. Brody King shows up last night. Yeah, you're right. We're going to talk about both of those things coming up here. As a matter of fact, I do have the rundown right here in front of me. So on today's episode number 123 of the AMP Wrestling Podcast for Thursday, January 13th, 2022. January 13th always has a special place in my heart, because it's been 2 years to the day now that the greatest college football team of all time, the 2019 LSU Tigers, won the national championship. So I just want to throw that out there. But today's episode, we're going to talk about Corey Graves, reportedly cleared to wrestle after 7 years of being, I guess, retired due to issues with concussions. Obviously, concussions are nothing to play around with, and it's been reported that Corey Graves has been cleared to wrestle. So, are we going to see him in a wrestling ring? Well, what could we expect from Corey Graves? We'll talk about that. Also, as Marcus mentioned a while ago, Brody King made his AEW debut last night, so we're going to talk about that as well, among other things that happened on Dynamite last night as well. And also, we are now, 2 weeks and change away from the Royal Rumble, my favorite match of the year, the Royal Rumble match. Of course, the last few years we've had two of them, so double the fun for me, I guess. But that card is starting to shape up a little bit. We'll talk about that. And also, Ring of Honor announced their first show back. Of course, they're in the middle of a hiatus right now. They're kind of rebranding or doing whatever it is they're doing to try to bring Ring of Honor back. I don't know exactly what it is they're doing, but they did announce their first show back from their hiatus that will take place over WrestleMania weekend. So we'll talk about that as well, and everything else coming up here on the 123rd episode of the AMP Wrestling Podcast for Thursday, January 13th, 2022. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is Corey Graves. Reportedly, he's cleared to wrestle again. And for those of you who don't know, he obviously wrestled a little bit in NXT. Then he started, obviously having concussions or issues with concussions. And he, kind of retired, I guess you could say, from in-ring competition and obviously made a name for himself at the broadcast booth. And I tell you what, with all the people that WWE has released over the last 2 years, I would take advantage of the fact that Corey Graves can wrestle because obviously if he was good enough to be in NXT, he's good enough to be, I guess, featured on the main roster. Now, I personally have never seen him wrestle. I've never seen a match of his. So I can't say how good or bad he may be in the ring, but I would expect he's at least decent if he had a little bit of a run in NXT when NXT was really taken off, if you will. So it would be a really good idea to have Corey Graves get in the ring because, over the last, I guess, 7 years, the WWE Universe has come to know Corey Graves. Some probably love him, some probably hate him, but we've come to know him. We've gotten to know him because he speaks to us every week, and it speaks to us more so than obviously a lot of WWE wrestlers currently, being that he's on the full-time broadcast team. So we've gotten to, and he's gotten kind of, I guess, mixed in here and there. One example in particular was when Big Cass was still with WWE. He went up to Corey Graves and had a little confrontation with him on screen. I'm assuming kayfabe-wise, that wasn't a shoot or anything, but told him to stay out of his business. And then, obviously, Big Cass used to date Carmella. Corey Graves is now dating Carmella. Some people believe that maybe that had some significance there. I'm not sure, but we've come to know him and gotten to know him, and it's one of those things. Obviously, when you introduce a new wrestler, you have to build him up. You have to get the fan, give the fans a reason to get behind him, and now you have this sort of comeback story, similar to like Edge. Edge was obviously out for 9 years, and he's come back. Now, granted, where Edge was when he retired versus where Corey Graves was when he retired, two completely different levels. I mean, Edge is a Hall of Famer. Corey Graves is not. But Corey Graves, like I said, we've come to know him over the years, obviously both on screen and even off screen. He has his podcast with Carmella. They use their real-life government names for this podcast. And it's no secret that him and Carmella are dating and things like that. So, like I said, we've kind of gotten to know him a little bit on a personal level as well. And he's just a very, to me, he's been a very polarizing figure at the broadcast desk. And I think, he would get a really good pop. And I think fans are starting to, if they didn't know already, they're learning by reading the news, especially, if they read, obviously, the internet and whatnot. I mean, it was blasted all over the internet earlier this week that he was cleared to wrestle. So I think it would be cool, certainly, to have him do kind of like, it was a handful of years ago during the Royal Rumble where, I don't even remember what year it was, but a few of the announcers, I know like Cole was in, Jerry Lawler got in, and like they were sitting at the broadcast desk, and even JBL, I think one year, was sitting at the broadcast desk, and he ended up being an entrant. He got in, he didn't last long, but have a situation where Corey Graves is calling the Rumble match, and whatever entrant he comes in at, the countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the buzzard hits, and next thing you know, Corey Graves stands up and gets in the ring and starts wrestling. I think that would be a really cool moment, and I think the fans would mark out for that. I would kind of mark out for that, to be honest. I don't know if I've ever heard Corey Graves' theme music, so if his theme music would hit, I would have no clue what the hell's going on. But obviously nowadays, everyone's theme music, their names pop up on the Titantron. So that's how I knew. When we went to the Royal Rumble in Houston, that's kind of how I knew who a handful of the superstars, or especially in the women's match. I wasn't familiar with handful of the theme songs for the women, and of course, obviously, their names pop up on the screen, so I knew who it was. But I think it would be a really cool thing to have him come out in the Royal Rumble and maybe do stuff here and there, because obviously in the past, WWE has gotten announcers involved in storylines and had matches, notably, Jerry the King Lawler. And in the height of the Attitude Era, I remember him having a feud with Taz. Obviously, he had his feud with Michael Cole where they had a match at WrestleMania. So maybe do something like that. I don't know if he's going to want to return to wrestling full time, because obviously, with concussions, it seems like Corey Graves has gotten a second chance to fulfill his dream here. So you don't want to obviously, get too crazy and ruin it. But I think it would be really cool to have Corey Graves come back and do something part time in the ring. Because like I said, the character of Corey Graves, in my opinion, you've in a way you've built it up at the announce desk for the last 7 years, and so you got that aspect down. And obviously he can talk. The guy can talk because he's at the announce desk. How does that transition into like cutting a promo? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I think he'll do pretty well at that too. Marcus says, I agree. The best way to slowly get him involved again. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think they're going to, let him dive in head first and just go balls to the wall and, start having him wrestle every single week. But, with the the shortage of talent that you have right now with everyone that has been released over, the last 2 years, I think this is an opportunity to, get a guy who's, well established to a degree in the company and put him in a match. So I guess we'll see, what they do with him. But right now, like I said, I don't know if there's even any plans to do anything with him. But I think it would be cool to definitely have him, I guess, make his return to the ring at the Royal Rumble match as a surprise entrant. I think that'd be cool. Marcus says 7 years of not wrestling, times have changed, so he needs a new fight style. See, now Marcus, I don't know what his fight style was. And obviously, you want to talk about 7 years of not wrestling. I mean, we can compare that obviously to CM Punk. The way CM Punk wrestled still works nowadays. And whatnot. And obviously, I think the only reason he may have to change his fight style is to protect his head, because that is what obviously caused him to have to retire in the first place. Is the the problem with concussion. So that could be a reason to change your fight style. So, but whatever he was doing, I think it would be okay. Like I said, I've never seen any of his matches, so I don't know what to expect from him. But it's great that he'll be able to wrestle again, hopefully. Like I said, I think it'd be really cool to have him in the Royal Rumble match. I think that would be just awesome. I'd be really excited about that. So hopefully it happens. We'll see. But yes, Corey Graves, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com, he's been medically cleared to wrestle again for the first time in 7 years. Graves is reportedly no longer on WWE's internal no-contact list, and there have apparently been creative pitches made for how to utilize him. So there you go. Graves has previously competed in NXT but had to retire in 2014 after suffering multiple concussions. Graves then transitioned into commentator role for the WWE, which he's been doing ever since his in-ring retirement. In 2020, a video had surfaced of Graves doing in-ring training with his brother Sam Adonis. In November of 2021, Graves won and lost the 24/7 title with minimal physical contact. Graves then tweeted, I kind of want to wrestle again. So there you go. And maybe he gets into the 24/7 title picture, which is probably not the best place to be. But Certainly, if you're employed with WWE, I guess it's better than not being employed with WWE, which is unfortunately where a lot of people have been the last couple of years. So there you go. Corey Graves could be back in a wrestling ring sooner than later. Marcus said, that's what I meant. That's why Brian and Christian, even Nikki Bella. So agreed. Can't just go balls to the wall. Gotta think this thing through more. There you go, Marcus. So Corey Graves, I'd be excited to see him in the Royal Rumble, I gotta say. All right. Last night, AEW Dynamite, couple of surprises. The biggest surprise, and we thought we were going to get this last week, but it was the AEW debut of Brody King. I had heard of Brody King. I'd never seen him wrestle. I know he was in Ring of Honor. King wound up aligning himself with his tag team partner, Malachi Black. I think a lot of people were expecting that. He appeared during a segment that involved the Malachi Black, Penta El Zero Miedo, and the Varsity Blondes. And the debut came when the Varsity Blondes, they actually were surrounding Malachi Black after he went after Penta. And then the lights go out, came back on. King was in the ring, and he laid out Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, and Penta. So it was, he got a pretty good pop. Like I said, I've never seen him wrestle, so he's obviously a big dude, a lot of tattoos. I think he's got more tattoos than Malachi Black, which is saying something. So, and apparently they've been tag team partners before. I was unaware of this, but obviously I think they would go very well together as a tag team. So I'm curious to see what they do with him. He's got a very, like I say, he's a pretty big dude. Now, when he did this, he kind of did this thing like Kevin Owens does. It's one of those things where you have your opponent sitting in the corner on the turnbuckle, on the bottom turnbuckle, or leaning against it at least, and he runs and you cut a front flip into the person, and he did that last night, I think, to Pillman Jr., and holy smokes. That looked like it was painful for Pillman Jr., man. That was something. That was one of those things, like, I stood up, I was like, holy crap. Like, hopefully Pillman Jr. is okay, because that's a big old boy throwing his entire body at you like that. But, man, that was something. So I'm excited to see what this guy's all about. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around him. But I like I said, I've never seen him wrestle, so I can't say, if I'm excited or not. I guess I'm excited at the possibilities, certainly. And I know Malachi Black is tremendous. I've seen him wrestle many times, from NXT to AEW, and I know how good he is. So I'm looking forward to it. But Brody King has debuted. Looks like he's in the House of Black. Marcus says, House of Black, first female. Who do you think? Last night, after watching the way Hart reacted, I see a heel turn for her. Marcus, I think a lot of people are expecting that. It would be interesting. And then you had another little video vignette with Pac, and the way he was talking about how he was blinded, but he can see clearly now, and he's got one of those little cards. Some people think maybe he could join the House of Black. Obviously, Julia Black, as Penta and the Varsity Blondes were ganging up on Malachi Black last night before Brody King came out. Julia Black kind of had them stop, which is a little weird, I guess you can say, a little unusual. So a lot of people right now, and then she was dressed in black last night as well. So another thing to note there. So a lot of people are expecting her to possibly join the House of Black, which it could be interesting. And, you say a heel turn. I don't know if it's necessarily, I guess you can call it a heel turn. It seems like it could be more of a thing where she gets, hypnotized or something like that to join. So she's or brainwashed. I think that's another good term to use. She gets brainwashed and put into the House of Black. So it might be one of those scenarios where she can't really control her own thoughts or control her mind. Maybe Malachi Black and the House of Black is controlling her, things of that nature. She had Marcus says she had the eye patch on. See her taking it off, has a red eye like he did, or the freaky eye too. Yeah, maybe, she takes it off and there's some blackness around her eye and whatnot, kind of like how Malachi has. So that'll be an interesting development. Now that Brody King's here, I suspect they'll be featuring that storyline a little bit more on Dynamite and on TV. So that's going to be a very fun storyline going forward, to see if Julia Black jumps ship, also to see if Pac jumps ship as well, because of course he's tight with Penta as well. They got the Death Triangle thing going, but of course Rey Fenix is hurt right now, so curious to see how that takes shape. All right, let's move on now to the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble's coming up January 29th. It's going to be in St. Louis. Wish I could make that trip and go, because ever since going back in 2020, I had so much fun. We had so much fun. Marcus, you can attest to that. You were there with us. A great time in Houston at Minute Maid Park at the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. But the match card starting to take some shape here. The WWE Championship is going to be Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. That's a match that I think a lot of people have been very anxious to see for a while now. We thought we were going to get it at SummerSlam last year. Obviously, we didn't. But we're going to get it at the Royal Rumble now. So I don't know if these two guys have ever gone one-on-one. But, yeah, if this is the first time ever, I'm excited about it. These are two big old dudes that are just going to – it's going to be very physical. It's going to be – they have an opportunity to put on a really good match. Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship. And then you have Becky Lynch taking on Doudrop. Doudrop won, I think, like a triple threat match to get this opportunity. So Doudrop, I still don't know why she has that name still. I was hoping they'd change it back to Piper Niven whenever she kind of separated herself from Eva Marie, who's no longer with the company now, I think. So she was there for a whole cup of coffee. So Becky Lynch and Doudrop are going to go one-on-one for the Raw Women's Championship. This one's another interesting match. Mixed tag team match. It's going to be Edge and Beth Phoenix, two Hall of Famers, taking on The Miz and Maurice. And the last time that I can remember The Miz and Maurice being in a mixed tag match was at WrestleMania 33 against John Cena and Nikki Bella. And, boy, I bet Nikki Bella wants to forget that. But obviously The Miz and Maurice, they got squashed by Cena. Marcus Talbot said, it was fun, lost my voice to watch Edge and still get goosebumps knowing that I was in that building. So, yeah, I know. I still go back every now and again and watch that Edge return video at the Rumble, man. That was one of the loudest pops I've ever been a part of. I'm sure one of the loudest pops you've ever been a part of as well, but you've also probably been to a handful of more shows than I have. But that was one of the, if not the biggest pop I'd ever been a part of when Edge came back at the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. And yeah, he'll be teaming up with his wife to take on The Miz and his wife at the Royal Rumble this year. So mixed tag team match there. The Universal Championship, it's going to be Roman Reigns taking on Seth freaking Rollins. And I guess freaking is officially part of Seth Rollins' name now, from what I read. So he'd been saying it for so long. I guess WWE is famous for taking parts of names away and then they add that to his name. I don't know why, but it was cool when it was just like I'm Seth freaking Rollins. Now it's like, I'm sure the announcers now every time it's Seth freaking Rollins, and something like that. That'll wear that out really, really fucking quick. But yeah, Roman Reigns taking on Seth freaking Rollins for the Universal Championship, which is weird because Seth is a Raw superstar, and obviously Roman Reigns in the Universal titles on SmackDown, so that was a little bit of a weird dynamic there. But that's what's going to go down at the Royal Rumble. Then, of course, we got the two Royal Rumble matches. Right now, according to Wikipedia, there are 10 announced entrants in the Men's Royal Rumble match. Angelo Dawkins, Montez Ford, Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, Austin Theory, Johnny Knoxville, Sheamus, Damian Priest, AJ Styles, and Big E. And based on that list right now, there's only two guys I could see winning this Royal Rumble, and that's AJ Styles or Big E. Obviously, we got 20 more names that are going to be included, but as of right now, based on that list, the favorites have got to be AJ Styles or Big E. Obviously, Rey Mysterio's won it before, but I don't see him winning it again. I think an outside chance, Damian Priest. Sheamus has won it before as well. I just don't see it happening. But yeah, AJ Styles or Big E is going to be the favorites as of right now. Obviously, that is subject to change depending on who else they get in there. And there's also a report that, let's see here. Marcus says, I read they want to switch the titles. They want the world title on SmackDown. Why they are doing it this way? That is interesting because obviously, I'm sure that's something Fox wants. Whatever Fox wants, Fox is going to get over on SmackDown. We know this. So I guess we'll find out. But I read that, let's see, I got it actually right here somewhere. Here we go. So apparently maybe another Forbidden Door entrant could be coming to the 2022 Royal Rumble match. As previously noted, I'm reading this. This is from Aaron Rift of NoDQ.com. As previously noted, several names were announced for the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble match during the January 7th edition of SmackDown. It was reported that WWE's policy had seemingly changed in regards to using wrestlers under contract to other wrestling promotions. Twitter account @WrestleVotes wrote the following in regards to a possible Forbidden Door Rumble entrant besides Mickie James. This is what the tweet said. Had more than one source this weekend, without me directly asking, state they believe WWE will try for a quote unexpected Forbidden Door entrant in the men's Royal Rumble. Personally, I'm skeptical it happens, but I can confirm WWE is at least open to the idea, which is exciting enough. Now, take that for what it's worth. Obviously, this is something WWE has not done in the past, but they're doing it with Mickie James, who is the Impact Knockouts World Champion. And Pat McAfee even stated Impact Knockouts World Champion on SmackDown. So Impact was mentioned on WWE television. I don't know if that was something he was supposed to do or not, but the fact that they're doing it with Mickie James sort of gives me hope that they're going to do it. And when I read that article, I started sifting through names. I said, okay, who could they get? Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona was the first name that popped into my mind. Because I don't think they're going to go to AEW to get someone. I think they're going to get someone from Impact. Zack Ryder was the first name I thought of. Let me pull up the Impact roster here real quick. I didn't even get a chance to really look at the Impact roster to see who it could possibly be. But let's see here who we got. I know they talked about Moose has been talking about having a match with Roman Reigns, so I don't know if they'll have the Impact World Champion come out. But let's see here. So looking through, Brian Myers, obviously not Buddy Murphy. What was his name in WWE? Kurt Hawkins. Kurt Hawkins could be someone. Just looking through the list of people right now. Eric Young, someone who's worked there before. I don't see that happening. Maybe Heath Slater. I'm just looking at people who, obviously have worked with WWE before. I'm not seeing, many other people there that, could come through the Forbidden Door and enter the men's Royal Rumble match. Obviously, I mentioned Matt Cardona. Looking through Rhino could be another one. Maybe Rich Swann. Maybe not. Because Rich Swann wasn't all that big in WWE. I mean, he was big in the Cruiserweight division, but we saw how that turned out with WWE. Maybe one of the Good Brothers. I don't know. Or W. Morrissey, who obviously was Big Cass. So I think they go that route. I could be wrong. I saw someone mention the John Moxley, maybe. I don't know. Marcus says the only other time I can think of this thing was the Greatest Royal Rumble when Chris Jericho was there, and he was with New Japan. Yeah, but I think we see Marcus back then. Chris was still, I think, kind of under contract. That was in 2018. So he was doing stuff with New Japan, but I think he was still kind of under contract with Vince, and Vince was allowing him to go overseas to do wrestling. So I think, that was a kind of a, it was one of those things where it was like, well, if you're going to do it in Japan, that's fine, but like you obviously can't go anywhere else in the country. And I think that was the understanding that Jericho and Vince had, that he just didn't want him going on television elsewhere in the same country, but you can go to Japan and do that. And the Good Brothers, I did mention the Good Brothers, so I just don't see them go and grab someone from AEW. And Marcus says Corey enters the Rumble and Big Cass comes out, so Corey runs. That would be I'd mark out for that. That would be some good shit right there, as Vince likes to say. So, but yeah, I don't know who this Forbidden Door entrant could be. Like I said, my gut tells me they're going to go to Impact, because obviously they went to Impact to get Mickie James to enter the Women's Royal Rumble, which I'm going to go over the entrance for the Women's Royal Rumble here in just a minute. But I just don't see them going to AEW. I'm trying to think where else they could go. Maybe MLW. Maybe they grab somebody in MLW. I don't know. But I'll be very curious to see, even if it does happen. I don't think it's a for sure thing, but if it does happen, my gut tells me they are going to go to Impact and grab someone. Obviously, I think that's worked with the company before, like a Matt Cardona or like a Brian Myers, W. Morrissey, people like that. All right, let's move on now to the Women's Royal Rumble match, if I can pull it up. So right now, 19 of the 30 entrants have been announced for the Women's Royal Rumble match. Rhea Ripley, Nikki A.S.H., Dana Brooke, Carmella, Queen Zelina, Tamina, Shotzi, Natalya, Aliyah, Naomi, Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair, who, by the way, is, I think, the SmackDown Women's Champion right now, which is, I don't understand why they are having her in the match, but whatever. Nikki and Brie Bella, Lita, Michelle McCool, Kelly Kelly, Summer Rae, and Mickie James. So, maybe Johnny Knoxville is the Forbidden Door entrant. I don't know. He's coming from from Jackass. Obviously, that's all that is. He's there to promote the Jackass movie that comes out in February, which I will go see, by the way. Love me some Jackass. I grew up on that shit. So yeah, there's 19 women announced. Obviously, room for 11 more. And I'll be curious to see. Obviously, I think they'll be going in with some NXT women as well, I would think. Because you got Mandy Rose, who's obviously had a presence on the main roster before. I would think Mandy Rose will probably be an entrant. Let's see. What else Mark has got to say here? Well, rumor is WWE is talking with AEW. Tony has been in talks with Johnny Aces. Okay, well. That's interesting, because I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like Tony isn't trying to do business with WWE. I'd be shocked if that was the case, but I could be wrong. So we'll see. I'm very excited about the possibilities. Obviously, the Royal Rumble is always full of some kind of surprises, so that's another reason why I love the Royal Rumble so much. Full of surprises. All right, let's see here. All right, so I'm done talking about the Royal Rumble. That's coming up in just over 2 weeks. It's a Saturday night, by the way. January 29th is the date for that. Looking forward to that. On a Saturday night Royal Rumble. I don't know if we've ever had a Saturday night Royal Rumble. That would have helped 2 years ago if they had on a Saturday night. I wouldn't have to take off a day of work. Could have hung out in Houston on that Sunday. Charlotte is entering so she can choose her own challenger for Mania. Yeah, okay. That's what I figured. What would happen hypothetically if Charlotte wins? I don't think she's going to win. But then again, maybe she will. But I don't think she will. So obviously, it's kind of like the G1. If you're the champion and you win the G1, you can choose your opponent in New Japan Pro Wrestling. All right, let's move on now. What's the next thing I got to talk about here? Oh, Ring of Honor announced a new event for WrestleMania weekend. Let's see, where is that at? Right here. So Ring of Honor announced the following. Ring of Honor returns to live wrestling with the Super Card of Honor slated for Friday, April 1st at the Curtis Colwell Center in Dallas, Fort Worth. Tickets for the annual pay-per-view extravaganza go on sale Friday, January 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central for Honor Club members, and Friday, January 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central for the general public. Since 2006, Super Card of Honor has been the stage for some of Ring of Honor's most memorable and historical matches featuring the best wrestlers on the planet. Keep it locked into ROHWrestling.com and ROH's social media channels for Super Card of Honor announcements. So, obviously, that's their big show of the year that they do during WrestleMania weekend. I know Cruz and Brink went. Marcus, I don't know if you went with him a few years ago when it was in New Orleans. That was back in 2018. I know they went, and it was a great show. I watched it on a live stream, and they're always great shows and whatnot. And obviously, it's a big deal because it's WrestleMania weekend. They always go to wherever WrestleMania is going to be because obviously wrestling fans from around the world converge on that, whatever city WrestleMania is in, and they go to WrestleMania, and they also may go to obviously like Super Card of Honor and any other wrestling shows that are happening in the area over the course of WrestleMania weekend. So it's as a wrestling fan, it's a fun weekend to just kind of kick back. Like Friday night, you watch Ring of Honor, Super Card of Honor. I mean, I remember, last year was a little different with the pandemic, but was it last year? 3 years ago, 2019, obviously, you had NXT, you had Super Card of Honor, then you had WrestleMania. You had a 3-night extravaganza back in 2019. That was the last, for me, it feels like that was the last true WrestleMania weekend. And it seems like maybe this year we're going to get back to that. So I'm excited about that. It's in Dallas. I'm like, I want to go. It's right there, too. Like, it's only like 5 or 6 hours away from me. So I want to go. I just don't know if unfortunately, if I can make it happen. One of these days, I'm going to go to a WrestleMania because I've always wanted to go to a WrestleMania. I missed out the 2 times they went to New Orleans. I mean, WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans. I mean, my God. Like, I spent New Year's in New Orleans, and it was so much fun. And I mean, I spent, obviously, number of nights and weekends and days in New Orleans. I mean, I've gone to see 2011 WWE Hell in a Cell. I went in New Orleans, and New Orleans is always a fun time, especially if you have all these wrestling fans converging on New Orleans as well. But I'm sure it's going to be like that again for Dallas this year. I'm excited about it. Looking forward to WrestleMania weekend. Yeah. And other than that, I kind of sold myself short on things to talk about here. I saw Sonny got arrested for, let's see here. Let me look. I'm going to pull it up right here. She got arrested today, maybe? Let me see. I'm going to pull it up right now. Good old Sonny, always in, I wonder how she's doing on OnlyFans. Speaking of OnlyFans, I did talk to David earlier, and he was telling me how Scarlett Bordeaux's doing pretty well on OnlyFans, and I did a little research to see what kind of content she was putting on OnlyFans, and from what I read on Reddit, it's more than she posts on IG, but still no nudity. It's implied nudity. So the example they used was like, she has no top on, but her hair is covering her tits. So as soon as them areolas come out, I may have to subscribe and check it out. But until then, I think I'm okay for now. So where the hell is this Sonny? Oh, here he is right here. So Sonny arrested for illegal weapon possession and terroristic threats. It's being reported by TMZ.com that WWE Hall of Famer Tammy Sonny Sytch was arrested this morning in New Jersey for allegedly possessing a weapon unlawfully and making terroristic threats. It was noted that the nature of the alleged threats are unknown for the time being. The site stated the following. Court records show 49-year-old Sytch was arrested in Keansburg, New Jersey, and taken into custody at the Monmouth County Jail at 11 a.m. The exact nature of the alleged crimes are unclear, but records indicate the wrestling legend was hit with 3 charges, 2 for illegally possessing a weapon. It doesn't appear the alleged weapon was a firearm, and 1 charge for terroristic threats. The weapons charged 3rd degree each carry possible 3 to 5 year prison sentence, while the threats charge 4th degree carries up to a 1 year sentence. Oh boy. So Sunny has seen better days, apparently. So, yeah, she got arrested today. So I guess that means no OnlyFans content coming up for Sunny in the near future, I would guess. Unless, depending on what her bail is, she might be able to use that OnlyFans money to bail herself out of there. But, yeah, like I said, I don't have much else to talk about. And when you only have when it's only me, I kind of run through that shit quick. So I'm just kind of looking around to see if there's anything else out there I can sort of talk about. I was talking about Scarlett Bordeaux a minute ago. Apparently, she has graced the cover of Fitness Girls, and boy, let's just say the underboob is strong with that cover. It's quite the sight with Scarlett Bordeaux there on the cover of Fitness Girls. But I tell you what, since I have nothing else to talk about here, I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'm going to wrap it up. It'll be a little bit of a shorter version of the podcast this week, but Marcus, appreciate you hanging out with me, chatting it up a little bit. Hopefully next week David will be back, and we'll have more things to talk about. Getting ready for the Royal Rumble, obviously coming up here in just a couple of weeks. I'm excited about that. And then it's going to be WrestleMania season. So hopefully the build-up to WrestleMania this year will be good, since there's going to be a packed house. We haven't had a packed house WrestleMania in 3 years. Let's see. Marcus said, I just read Greg Hamilton was in a car accident that he barely survived. Yeah, he was a ring announcer. Let me look that up real quick here. Let me see if I can find a quick story on Greg Hamilton. Greg Hamilton, Canadian. He was a Canadian baseball player? That's weird. Well, Marcus, I'm looking up, Greg Hamilton on Google, and I'm looking up news, and I'm not seeing anything. Well, maybe next week. If it comes out, might be something that happened, today, and maybe the story's not fully out yet. So, if he was in a car accident and he barely survived, obviously we wish him the best, and hoping for a full recovery. Marcus, I seen it on Facebook News. Well, Marcus, you got to be careful about what you see on Facebook sometimes. I've learned that the hard way over the years. But you got to be, my sister is someone, she'll say something crazy, and I'm like, well, where'd you hear that? I heard it on Facebook. Don't believe everything you hear on Facebook. But there are some legitimate things on Facebook too, but not everything is legitimate on Facebook. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up from here. Again, folks, if you want to help out the podcast, tinyurl.com/AmazonAmp. Also, Marcus just said Roman breaks 500 days as champion. I think that's today or tomorrow. Nonetheless, Roman Reigns will be champion for 500 days, whether it's today or tomorrow. tinyurl.com/AmazonAMP. Just put that into your browser to go to Amazon, save it as a bookmark, and then anytime you want to go back to Amazon, just hit your bookmark. Any purchase you make, Amazon's going to throw us a little commission, and it'll help you boys out, help us make the podcast just a little bit better, because obviously, we always got room for improvement here at the AMP Wrestling Podcast. So I guess that's all for today. Once again, Marcus, thanks for hanging out with us. Go follow us on our social medias, Facebook at AMP Wrestling Podcast. Go subscribe to us on Twitch at AMP Wrestling Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, all AMP Wrestling Podcast, except for Twitter, it's AMP Wrestling Pod. So there you go. Well, let me get the outro here. Ready to rock and roll, because obviously I got to do my thing here real quick. So without further ado, outro.
You've been listening to the Average Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast with David Boston and Patrick Fry. All opinions discussed in the show are those of Average Marks and do not represent any wrestling company, organization, or individual. This has been a Lake Area Media, LLC production.